Good morning, my friends. It is a beautiful Tuesday on the big blue planet. What are you going to do to enhance your life and the lives of others today? I'm Mike Johnson, here again with some subtle and some not so subtle reminders that you're here to live. Ben Franklin said many years ago, some people die at age 25, but they aren't buried until they're about 75. Are you alive today? What if I ask you to prove it? You might say, well, I have pulse. I'm breathing. My heart's beating. And I would say that that has nothing to do with really living. Marcus Aurelius is quoted to have said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." I have this fear that most people are just floating through life, surviving from one day to the next, and have never been shown or taught what it really means to live. I think to pick an example from nature is sometimes the clearest example that we have to pattern ourselves after. How many of you have ever seen a flower on a tree, or a flower or a tree that is breaking through the pavement or the concrete? You know, I posted this picture last night, kind of to be a preview of what we were going to talk about this morning. But thinking about that flower for days and months, maybe years, there's this seed and roots. There's an organism growing underneath the concrete. It senses the air and the sunlight and the rain that it so desperately needs. And it works. And it fights. And it fights. And it struggles. And it pushes and it pushes and it pushes until one day there's a crack. Then the plant gets a little more rain, a little more sun through the crack, and continues to grow and continues to push. Every minute of every hour of every day, the flower is determined to be exactly what it was created to be, a flower. It finally breaks through the concrete and blooms, just like all the other flowers in the neighborhood or the valley that didn't have to work nearly as hard as it did to be what it was created to be. Now the question is, are you going to value that little flower more than the ones that didn't have to struggle? I think we don't, but we should. Just like people are trying to be what they were created to be, go through struggles in this life, and they push and they fight. Some of us have to break through the concrete in order to be what we're supposed to be. The truth is that we all have our own struggles in this life. Some of ours are really tough. Some are difficult. Some are excruciating. And some people are not so much. But who knows whose struggles are harder? We don't. But yet we think we have the right to tell another person that their struggle wasn't as hard as ours. Or we criticize the amount of time that it took to do a certain thing. You know, one thing, we go back to nature and how nature gives us an example. A rose never stops trying to be a rose, no matter where you put it. An oak tree never tries to be a pine tree, and a pine tree never tries to be a maple, even though human beings have tried to mix them up and mess with nature. I believe that many people are frustrated and unhappy because they're trying to be something other than what they were created to be. Alive. Just alive. Again, let me ask you what it means to be alive. If you were to walk down the street and ask 30 people, what it means to be alive, you'd get 30 different descriptions, 30 different definitions. Well, Thursday, I'm going to give you my definition for what it means to be alive. I know you're not going to believe this, but it's plain and simple. I believe it's important to know unequivocally what it means to be alive. Henry David Thoreau said many years ago, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." Albert Einstein said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." We'll revisit all these ideas Thursday and more. I hope that you'll join me. But till then, I want you to have a great week. Think about what it means to be alive. And do your best to live. I love you all. Take care. I'll see you Thursday.